Vols were a top 10 team in college football in 2022 and are a top 10 team in the 23 recruiting rankings. But what about 24? Well, Ryan Callahan of Go Vols 24/7 joins us now to break down this weekend's Junior Day on Rocky Top. Ryan, we showed that graphic of how Tennessee's success on the field has directly translated to success in recruiting. So following the 11-win breakthrough this past season, how have you seen that pay dividends in this current cycle now as we start to focus on 24?
Well, you're definitely seeing what we saw in the fall, which was that Tennessee got a lot of good players on campus for some of those most memorable home games this season, the Florida game, the Alabama game. They just had their first Junior Day of the year on Saturday. A lot of those guys have started to come back. And if they haven't been back yet, they're planning to come back in the coming weeks. So I think we're seeing Tennessee build on that 11-win season. Most importantly, we're hearing those players talking about Tennessee being more of a factor now and having gotten their attention more because of that 11-win season. So they're definitely doing their best to build off that, and it seems like they're off to a good enough start in 2024 that having a top 10 class in 2023, not much of a stretch to envision them maybe improving on that top 10 ranking, but at least putting together another top 10 class in 2024 with the way they've started.
Ryan, a big question I've had and something that I've been wondering as these quarterback dominoes fall. Look, Tennessee, they go out and get an elite arm in Nico. We just heard from the guys at the Polynesian Bowl about him. What is the plan for them? Because sometimes it's hard to follow up, a five-star quarterback with another elite quarterback. So where are their focus? I know Jake Berklinger has been tossed out there. Jaden Davis, who's also been linked to Michigan. Are they going to try to go for a late bloomer? Any insight in what they plan to do at quarterback?
Yeah, I think that still remains to be seen. You mentioned the name that I've heard the most, which is Jake Merklinger. They've gotten some traction with him out of Savannah, Georgia. Highly ranked four-star prospect, so a guy that they're going to face a lot of competition for. And the challenge, obviously, is can you sell that position and the opportunity to compete for the starting job next year to someone knowing they're going to come in alongside Nico Iamaleava? And that might depend on what he does this season. Does he play some games? Does he get a chance to start at some point, even though Joe Milton is the favorite right now? All that could factor in. Even if they land someone by this summer, it's something that could threaten that possibility of getting someone good in the 2024 class. It's even more important now because Taven Jackson, a four-star from the 2022 class, already is transferred out, headed to Indiana to join his brother who plays basketball there. So with him gone, after Joe Milton leaves, they're down to one scholarship quarterback. They've got to get somebody, and they just handed out a new offer just a few days ago in Texas, still searching for some early options and kind of expanding their board. So Jaden Davis, probably a long shot. Merklinger looks more realistic. Beyond that, we'll have to wait and see. I think they're still casting a wide net and being realistic about the situation, knowing that it's a challenge with someone who casts as large of a shadow as Nico Iamaleava will.
And we also know the Vols have had some success in the transfer market when it comes to a quarterback. They currently have the 12th ranked class in 24. Just 3 commitments, though. It's very early. They hope to add to that with some of the top talent that was in town this weekend, like, 5-star defensive lineman Williams Nwaneri, the number 3 player in the class and the highest rated player in attendance. What was his impression of the program?
He really loved the visit. Talking with him, he was kind of blown away and definitely made it sound like he's going to be back in Tennessee at some point, whether it's this spring for a practice or in the summer. Already talking about maybe taking an official visit to Tennessee. Obviously, still very early and things like that can change, but they made a great first impression on him, and that's a big deal. That's they landed someone out of the Kansas City area last year, not an area they recruit a whole lot, but Shondavian Bradley, a top 100 player nationally last year. So you've got a little bit of a connection there in the area too, to a guy like Williams Nwaneri, and we'll see how much they can build on that. But based on that first visit, it sounds like Tennessee definitely has some staying power in that one, and is going to have a chance to be a factor in his recruitment going forward.
Ryan, another headliner, Mike Matthews out of the Atlanta area. This is one of the top two-way players in the class of 2024. Some schools like him on offense, other schools like him on defense. Early on in that recruitment, USC, Notre Dame, Georgia were the schools, but he was back in Knoxville. Where does Tennessee stand in this recruitment? What's the buzz coming out of the facilities there? And more importantly, do they like him on offense or defense?
Yeah, it sounds like they're recruiting him as a wide receiver right now, and that's an example of what they've really gotten done so far in this class. But whether it's Ryan Wingo, another 5-star who was in town, or some of the 4-stars they're in on, they're in on a bunch of good wide receivers so far in this 2024 class, and that's a position of need. They only signed one true receiver that's expected to be an immediate impact guy in Nathan Leacock in the 2023 class. So we're hearing a lot of those guys, including Mike Matthews, really talk about having a chance to follow in the footsteps of Jalen Hyatt, winning the Blitnikoff Award this season and putting up the kinds of numbers those wide receivers did this year. So I think Tennessee is at least in the running and a legitimate factor for Mike Matthews. I think it speaks volumes that he was back at Tennessee on Saturday, only his second time there, but chose to make that visit over going to Georgia's national championship celebration. That said something to me about his interest in the Vols. So I think Tennessee at least is in the thick of that one. Going to be a long recruitment for sure, but Tennessee has given itself a chance to be a real factor with him.
Another guy you mentioned, Ryan Wingo, the number 4 wide receiver in the class, also there. Vols leading in the crystal ball, and as you just laid out, it's pretty easy to see why a wide receiver might want to play for Josh Heupel. But what stood out to him about his visit to Knoxville this past weekend?
Well, the important thing about this was, I think this was just sort of building on what Tennessee had already done with him. Steve Wiltfong's done a great job reporting on his recruitment and mentioned that, he in recent months, it sounds like Tennessee has kind of set the bar in his recruitment since he went to the Tennessee-Florida game back in September. So I think Tennessee has been kind of the early favorite, and this visit just was kind of a chance for him to have fun there, get to know the school more. He didn't really have any in-depth conversations about football, didn't really have any particular goal. It sounded like a guy who plans to be back there multiple times, just continuing to get familiar with the school that he really could see himself at. And that's a big deal for a kid from St. Louis who's got an 8-hour drive to make that trip and kind of came in and made a weekend trip of it and is already planning to come back in the spring sometime or at least the summer. So I think Tennessee really did a good job there and has continued to do a good job with Ryan Wingo. He looks like the most realistic of those 5 stars that they've hosted so far, but they're legitimately in it for a lot of those guys. Wingo just looks like the best possibility early, and they've done a good job with him, obviously, getting him on campus 3 times now since June.
Great name, too, right, Ryan? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Check out Ryan's coverage of Junior Day and all the off-season storylines at GoVols 24/7.